That moment when you have the strategy, maybe you've hired the coaches, you know what to do, and you can't actually make yourself do it. We mostly kind of know that we are the thing holding ourselves back. I think of it as like a spiral parking garage. This is the piece I wish someone had been able to explain to me earlier. They told me to slow down, but I didn't really quite understand this. I felt like if I rushed through the first level of the parking garage, then I would get to level 2, and it would be completely different at level 2. But what I realize is it's actually just a parking garage, just with a slightly better view. Sometimes as we think about moving forward, we also think all of our problems are going to be resolved in the move forward. And instead, what's actually true is that we meet those new problems with an up-leveled version of ourselves that still has to navigate the same problem in now a new way. We're kind of running through life saying like, well, I'll go to the gym when I have the abs. Well, that's not quite how it works.
One says like, that's not the energy you're going to, it's the energy you're coming from. Today, our guest is Andi Hess, an award-winning certified hypnotherapist and rapid results coach, CEO of Remix Coaching, and a best-selling author of the book, The Six-Figure Chicks. With over 20 years of experience helping high-performing entrepreneurs break internal barriers, she's also the Phoenix East Valley leader for the Holistic Chamber of Commerce. Let's get right into the episode. Hey, it's Steve. Real quick before we begin, the single biggest thing I've learned about succeeding as an ADHD entrepreneur is that everything boils down to mastering your weeks. So if ADHD is making business harder than it needs to be, I've got something that can help. Grab my free weekly ADHD dashboard. It's a free, simple, but powerful tool to help you stay focused, organized, and in control of your week. The link is in the description below. Welcome again. I'm Steve August. Welcome to ADHD Entrepreneur Accelerator. I am super excited about this episode because we have someone I've wanted to get on the podcast for a while, and I'm so happy to have her. She's an ADHD Entrepreneur Accelerator member, and I met her in when she went through my weekly OS program last year, and super excited to have her. Andi Hess is an award-winning certified hypnotherapist, rapid results coach, international speaker, and best-selling author. With over 20 years of experience as a productivity consultant, corporate trainer, and organizational leadership professor, she has been featured on stages across the world. After checking off her entire bucket list by age 37, Andi developed her signature breakthrough roadmap formula for achieving anything you want. She serves as the local group leader of the Phoenix Holistic Chamber of Commerce and on the eWomen Network Phoenix leadership team. Inspired by the belief that everyone already has what they need within them, Andi is dedicated to helping women remix their lives and achieve the extraordinary. Welcome, Andi. It's so great to have you here.
It's great to be here. Thank you for having me.
So where in the world do we find you today?
I am in sunny Phoenix, Arizona. Always sunny Phoenix, Arizona.
It's always sunny in Phoenix, Arizona?
Yeah, basically.
You guys need your own show.
Yeah, it's sunny, but it's boring, actually. Quite boring here. Always has been. So I like to say everyone in Phoenix is basically retired. You generally only come here when you're retired, but it's so hot you're retired anyway. It doesn't even matter. If you were just like 2 years old, you're retired.
Yeah. That's funny because there's the old joke in Portland, in Portlandia, Portland is like where young people go to retire.
Yeah.
So we
Phoenix
share
is
that.
like that too.
Yeah, we share that retirement vibe. So like I said, I'm so excited to have you. I've gotten to know you over the past 9 months or so, 9-10 months. And it's just been an absolute pleasure. And also has had the opportunity now to experience some of the wonderful work that you do and benefit from that. So I think the place to start is tell us about your work currently. Who do you help and how do you help them?
Yeah. So I'm a hypnotherapist now, full-time certified hypnotherapist, rapid results coach. I work primarily with entrepreneurs. My pitch, my elevator pitch is like I help six-figure entrepreneurs transform into who they need to be to hit 7. I think we mostly kind of know that we are the thing holding ourselves back. So it's kind of that moment when, you have the strategy, maybe you've hired the coaches, you know what to do, and you can't actually make yourself do it. But the reality about that too, right, is that those are not necessarily, they are entrepreneur problems, but they're also just human problems. So
Absolutely.
I have kind of a wide variety of people in my practice, ranging from teenagers who are elite athletes, state champion level athletes, to entrepreneurs, to those entrepreneurs like husbands who they sent to me because they had great results. So it's kind of cool because I get to basically just work with people, right? On these things that are really, truly human problems.
Yeah, and I think what's so powerful about what you do is that these challenges that people have, like we get to a certain level, and then for some reason we can't seem to break through. Now, some of them are like, business level or surface level performance issues, but a lot of them tend to be deeper issues in terms of like how we see ourselves, our own limiting beliefs, our own kind of like nervous system that's been impacted by the things we've experienced in life, whether it's been traumas or different things. So tell me more about how does this work? So, people hear hypnotherapy and they're like, well, you got that watch and you're just like putting people to sleep and they
Are you
have
gonna
all
make
the,
me cluck like a chicken kind of thing? Yeah,
exactly. So,
100%.
so help the audience, our listeners, like understand what it's really about.
Yeah. Well, I want to talk about two things in that. So the first thing, that idea that it kind of doesn't matter what level you're at. I think that we tend to, not I think, I know, we tend to think about the future and our visions and the things that we want to achieve as if when I get there, these problems will go away, right? When I hit that next level, somehow in that, I also will have transformed and this thing that is a problem for me will no longer be a problem. And, you probably have heard that statement, what got you here won't get you there. And that is true. But also, whenever you hit that new level, right? There's a new level for yourself that you also you're going to grow your capacity and then you're going to be holding more and then you're going to have to grow your capacity again and hold more again, right? So we don't bake that into our visions often, we don't consider that like, you know what, when you get from 0 to 6 figures, you're going to have one set of problems show up, but then to go from 6 figures to 7, you're gonna have to, like, deal with that problem again in a brand new way, in an extra up-leveled sort of version of that. So I think that's really important is because it stops us from feeling like we're making progress, actually. It's like, "Really, I'm still here, this again?" And I think that's really core to moving forward. It's really core to continuing to move forward because it gets really exhausting if you just feel like, well, I'm just here again, right? Instead of realizing that, yes, it's here. I kind of think of it as like a spiral parking garage. I think this is the piece I wish someone had been able to explain to me earlier. They told me to slow down, but I didn't really quite understand this. I felt like if I rushed through the first level of the parking garage, then I would get to level 2, right? And it would be completely different at level 2. But what I realized is it's actually just a parking garage and the parking spots on level 2 are the same damn parking spots as the ones on level 1,
Right.
just with a slightly better view, right? So I wanted to mention that first because you kind of brought it up at this idea of, moving forward. And sometimes as we think about moving forward, we also think all of our problems are going to be resolved in the move forward. And instead, what's actually true is that we meet those new problems with an up-leveled version of ourselves that still has to navigate the same problem in now a new way. And I don't think that I really understood that back back when I was running through parking garage level 1. It's
Yes.
just like, "Oh, if I get through this, I get to the better lesson, I get to the cooler lessons." Yeah, no, same damn lessons.
Yeah, I had a therapist once who called it the fallacy of our future self. When something external happens, when we make that happen, we get over the next hump, we are going to be different. And he's like, no, you got to flip that. When you're different, you'll get a different outcome or you'll make that happen.
My favorite way to explain that is we're kind of running through life saying like, "Well, I'll go to the gym when I have the abs." Like, that's when I will be able to go to the gym. The gym is really hard right now, but when I have the abs, then I'll be able to go to the gym. And it's like, well, not quite how it
Not
works.
quite how it works. Yeah, I've had a number of coaches say it lots of different ways, but one says like, that's not the energy you're going to, it's the energy you're coming from. Right. It's like, it's not a destination. It's your source energy.
Yeah.
And then, just the general thing is be the thing that you want to be before you're the thing that you want to
Yeah.
be.
Yeah, I mean, everything really comes down to this, idea for me of identity-based habit change, right? And that, brings us back around to the other piece you were talking about is like, what is this hypnotherapy thing? I'm going to kind of flip something. I'm going to go into a little bit more of my story because I think it's really helpful in answering this question. And I'm going to come back to the idea of, am I going to make you cluck like a chicken?
Great, because we got to cover that.
We have to cover that. That's standard in all podcast interviews, right?
Yep.
It's hilarious to me, and I'm happy to answer it. But I found hypnosis when I was about 10. Actually, I found self-hypnosis on a cassette tape when I was about 10. And when I think back about that, so I was undiagnosed ADHD and autistic because, of course, we didn't diagnose back then, and we definitely didn't diagnose girls. And so all I really knew at the time was that life felt really hard. And there seemed to be, I'm sure everyone listening is going to totally relate to this. There seemed to be some sort of instruction manual that everyone else had been given that I somehow missed out on. And it felt like my brain was really just working against me, right? It felt like this thing that's supposed to be helping me make progress is not. And there's nothing I can do to stop it. And side note, there's also that little piece that happens to all of us, that like whole gifted child package, right? Where we're told like you're not living up to your potential. There's this absolutely fake version of you that somehow exists out there that if you could just like focus enough, you'd be able to be that. And, there's no truth in that whatsoever, right? So because fundamentally everybody is literally just doing the best they can 100% of the time, all the time. We're all just doing the best we can. So you get this kind of mix of, I don't know what's wrong. I don't know why I can't do this. I am, being told that I'm incredibly smart. I'm being told that literally if I could just make my brain change, I could do this. I could do it better. I could get everything I wanted. And yeah, I discovered a self-hypnosis cassette tape in a garage sale. And instantly I just was like, "You're telling me I can change my brain in my sleep? That sounds like the laziest, easiest thing in the world. I'm in." Like, let me do that. Let's
Yeah.
go that way.
I'll take
'Cause what
that,
I'm
please.
what I'm doing right now is really hard, so I'm gonna try
Mhm.
that instead. And I listened to that tape until like every night until I was 21, and then I lost it, had to wait for the internet to be invented to go find it again. But it did help, right? It helped me calm my brain. It helped me go to sleep, which at the time was absolutely insane because I'm sure just like most of us, my brain was more of a let's stay up until 3 a.m., 4 a.m., and then we'll go to sleep. And that doesn't work when you're in school. So putting on that tape let me fall asleep, which of course made those mornings better. But it also just, I just started letting it be easy. I started letting it change how I thought about things. I started letting it fill my mind with thoughts that were better, right? And it's so funny to go back and listen to now because I can totally tell where some really random values of mine came in from that tape. But yeah, it made it feel for the very first time like it was easy. So, what is this hypnosis thing and why is it that when you see it, it's on stage and you're like, "Oh my god, I would never do that. That looks terrifying," right? And you've got these stories like clucking like a chicken or forgetting stuff or whatever. So the bottom line is that stuff is absolutely completely real. It's not fake. That's the first thing everybody thinks like that's not real, right? Tell me that's not real. You're going to tell me you do something different. No, actually I do exactly the same thing. But here's how I like to make it feel a little bit safer. If you're looking at that and you're like that sounds terrifying, I would never do that. It's because there are two different types of subconscious minds. Number 1, we know how to pick them for stuff like that. Your subconscious mind is never going to do anything that isn't completely protective and is not completely aligned with your values. So you look at that and you think about mind control. And if that's you, if you look at that and you think, "Oh my god, that's crazy." I want you to think about somebody who literally has to be the middle of every single story, right? You're not the kind of person we would have up there. The kind of person we have up there is the kind of person who, when they go to a show, they want to come back and be able to tell you, "Oh my God, you're never going to believe what happened. I was up on stage. I couldn't remember a thing." Like, these kind of people. Their subconscious wants to be part of the story. It's part of their value system that they're going to have an experience. They're going to have a story to tell about. They're going to be the center of attention. It's part of their subconscious. So when you see it, you wouldn't do it. And so you wouldn't do it. If you've ever been to one of these shows, they send people back down, right? And that's because we know how to pick the people whose subconscious actually does want to participate in this. So, and we all know one of those people, by the way, which is why I like really explaining it like
We
that,
know them
because
and we love them.
you can instantly tell, oh yeah, best friend would absolutely do that. And then it
Yeah.
makes sense, right? So if you're not that person, you would not get up there and quack like a chicken or whatever. And the same thing is true in my office, right? When we're doing a hypnosis session, it is not something I do to you. It is something, we have a saying, all hypnosis is self hypnosis. And so it is something that I am guiding you to reframe in your subconscious mind according to your values. I call my library of hypnosis recordings bedtime stories for the subconscious mind because that's basically what it is. It's a bedtime story. If you think about being a child, human brains are raised on stories. That's the language your subconscious mind speaks. It's symbolic, it's archetypal, it's not bogged down in the literalness of everyday life. And that's why it's so powerful. Because when you change the story that your brain is telling, then you change your identity, you change your behavior. So now we're wrapped back into that, identity-based habit change. So, all of your problems, no matter what problems they are, all of your problems stem from the story you tell about whatever that problem is. I like to say there's not a single thing that's good or bad. There's not an emotion that's good or bad. There's not a behavior that's good or bad. It's really only, does it help you act in the world in the way that you want to act? So, what we do with hypnosis is we just tell your brain in its language a different story. And when it shifts that story, it no longer has the fear. It no longer has the worry. It no longer has the anxiety. It no longer does the spinning. It's going to do all the same processes, but in a different direction because the story's shifted. And that's really all that hypnosis is it's me telling you a story. It's me knowing the right story and the right language that your subconscious needs to hear.
So powerful because, I think you were even on this particular co-working session we had during our group where folks were like talking about the stories that their brain spins for them about anything, right? Like, and usually the stories often are of lack, of insufficiency,
Yes.
of scarcity, of they're not like I'm awesome and the world is abundant stories, and I'm just like picking the fruit off the tree. I don't know. It seems like those would be much more helpful stories. But I guess evolution has made it so that we want to stay on the negative side of the ledger, and we have to deal with that.
If
But
you make a mistake in the positive direction, it's usually not a huge payoff. If you make a mistake in the negative direction, you usually die. So
yes,
it's much more important to
yes,
go the negative way first, right? That's
yeah,
that's evolution. So,
yep. And that's all
yeah.
behavioral economics is right there. Yeah.
Yep.
So, yeah. So how does it kind of work? Like I've experienced it over the last few weeks when you've given me a recording and I listen to it, at night, and fall asleep to it sometimes. Sometimes I get all the way through it before I fall asleep. But I can tell you that my nervous system has like been a lot more chilled out since I've been doing that. Like, and that's so important for an ADHD brain to have a more chilled out nervous system because when our nervous system gets ratcheted up, we lose access to our executive function, which means we can't decide as well, we can't do as well, we can't task initiate, we can't manage our emotions, and it creates this little cycle that then we get really frustrated and then we get into more dysphoria and it just goes. And it was just really remarkable to feel that. So I'm just like, so folks can understand what that experience is like. How would you describe how you work with people?
This is interesting. The one with ADHD in particular, the first thing we need to do is create some space. There's some really interesting and good research that's beginning to show that ADHD really is simply a lack of pauses in between your thoughts. So I know you're going to geek out on this just as much as I do. So if you think about this, you think I have to be somewhere by 9:30, right? A normal brain would put in all the different steps before that, right? But we don't actually have the full pause and the interim. We don't put in the transition period, right? So everybody I'm sure listening can relate to that. So what ends up happening in ADHD, and we've talked a little bit about a couple of the key things that hypnosis might help with. And the key here is that we're kind of treating it symptomatically, right? Everybody's kind of got a different constellation of symptoms, and this is kind of one of the main ones. Okay, super quick tangent on that. Like, let me geek out on this pause thing. They actually think that this is one of the reasons why it seems like we have more ADHD happening in the world right now, because the way that video is cut right now takes out the pauses. It takes out the breaths. It takes out, so you're talking about reels, you're talking about podcasts, you're talking about YouTube videos, but you're also talking about, I was going to say sitcoms, but do we have sitcoms anymore? TV shows,
Loosely. Yeah.
right? You've got this super fast-paced, super, cut format that literally took out the pauses. It's almost like our media is simulating ADHD and so therefore creating ADHD. And if every single person listening can probably identify with this, if you go back and you turn on a sitcom from the 90s, you feel calmer. They were not cut like that.
I saw a Cheers clip just the other day,
Yep.
and it was a long setup for the joke, and it was with the coach, that character who's always a little moving at his own pace.
Yep.
And I was like, okay, I know where this is going. Can we just get there? But they took their time, and they were just like, and it just landed so well.
When TV was on film, and even when it first started going digital, we didn't cut it with a computer like this. So we didn't cut out pauses. We didn't cut out the breaths. That's normal, natural human communication, right? So yeah, Cheers and Frasier, I love that you brought that up. Those are my go-tos. When I know my system is overwhelmed, I know to turn off YouTube and put on Frasier.
Yeah.
Like, it's going to create a longer, chiller experience of rest and relaxation. So, super relevant, because when you now think about what you're doing with your thoughts, imagine that your brain, as an ADHD brain, simply is cutting out every single pause. It is automatically sort of skipping all those breaths. It's skipping all the pauses. It's skipping all the in-between time. And it's just like, right? And that's what it feels like. So the thing that I started with, with you, and that I start with every single one of my ADHD people with, is calming an overactive mind. And you can imagine that there's just all of these thoughts like running loose in your head. And what we're telling your brain is that they're actually separate things and that you can deal with them. You can individually deal with them, that they're not this one connected, tangled ball of yarn. They're each in that tangled ball of yarn, there's individual yarn threads, right?
Yeah. And
S- So
all ask can be pulled.
exactly, exactly.
Yeah.
And you can slow down, pause, and pull them, right?
Right. Yeah.
You can close a loop, because that's part of it too, right? If you think about that, it's like a million open loops, and it's because we don't slow down and close the loops.
That really hits home for me, because I've just even taking that up a level into the parts of the business I've been working on recently with a course relaunch, and going back to the foundations funnels and re-going over them. Those are loops that weren't like yarns that weren't fully pulled. They were just like, I pulled them a little bit, then I went on to the next thing. And then I pulled it a little and went
Exactly.
on to the next thing. And it felt almost like so much effort to like slow down and pause and like finish. And I hear that with a lot of the people in my program, and is like, there's so much stuff that's just, it's right there to be had, like an offer or a program or whatever it happens to be. And it's just like stays at almost done because we haven't paused to actually finish it.
Yeah. I mean, ask yourself, out of all the projects you started in the last year, not only how many of them have you finished, but how many of them have you actually told your brain are done and closed and over, right? So there's a part of your brain, if you were 6 years old and decided you wanted to be a pop star, but you never actually told yourself, "Okay, I don't wanna be a pop star. That sounds like a horrible life. Like,
Right.
I am 40 years old now, and I do not want to do that." There's a part of your brain that still thinks you should be trying to be a pop star, and honestly, it's kinda disappointed in you because you're not trying very hard, right? And one of the things about ADHD, and even some of the other things that kind of go along with it, the gifted thing that I talked about earlier, but also the extra pattern recognition, the like novelty and interest things and all the connections we see, and the, ooh, I could turn this into that, and I could do this with it, and I could do that with it. We don't even stop to close off, like to decide what done is, what done looks like, right? So you build a project, say you build a course, For example, let's just say it's an easy course. Let's make a quick example of, it's a 4-week course. It's just going to be 4 videos. They're going to drop once a week. You tell yourself that. You create 4 videos, you run the course. You might even plan to maybe like, okay, I'll make a couple tweaks or whatever. For us, number 1, thank God we even got the 4 videos done. But number 2, there's a part of our brain probably, and I'm sure as you think about this right now, there's a part of your brain that's like, I could see 27 ways to make that course better, right? So there's a part of your brain, even though you're like, not doing it right now, these are all possibilities. There's a part of your brain that's like, well, I'm gonna leave that loop open until you decide which of those possibilities or all of those possibilities are gonna be done. It's almost like, the 2 other metaphors that I really like, one of which is gonna show my age for this do you remember when we used to have to sit and defrag our computers?
Yeah, I totally remember that.
Like,
Is it the little
little
graph or
parts
little
you'd watch.
chunks?
It
Yeah.
was so satisfying, right?
Yes, it was.
Because I think part of the reason it's so satisfying is because we recognize in that just the simple act of, like, fully putting something in order and then finishing it is satisfying. But in real life, especially as entrepreneurs who really do, like, get to create whatever we want, and we don't have to turn it into anybody, and we could keep going for 20 years if we want, or we could go do something completely different next week. Those are our options. We don't actually take the time to even tell ourselves what we pick. We don't take the time to pick, right? And so every single thing you've ever even thought about doing, from I need to edit this course and there's 27 ways I can make it better, to I have to pick up cat food, to I actually already ordered cat food 3 times because I didn't actually tell my brain I ordered cat food because I did it halfway through and I didn't pay attention, like, to what I was doing. Multiple bottles of zinc that are sitting on my kitchen table
Memory
right
for
now.
the win.
Like, well, I guess it's a good thing I need that every month, but we don't stop. We don't naturally stop, take a pause, and decide. It's not something our brain does. So the cool thing about hypnosis is that even if you're not working on anything, so even if what I gave you was actually just a walk on the beach, hypnosis is the state that you go into at least twice a day when you're falling asleep and when you're waking up. But also every time you watch a movie, you have to forget that you're sitting on your couch, right? So you have to be in a state of hypnosis. Every time you drive home and you don't know how you got there, we call that environmental hypnosis, highway hypnosis. That's a state of hypnosis. It is a state where your brain is processing. So even if you're not actively working on anything, even if you're not changing the story, for my ADHD and particularly my anxiety clients, which obviously occurs a lot together, simply putting your brain into processing state, even as you're falling asleep, even without doing anything, gives your brain time to start closing those loops, right? It gives your brain time to start deciding what of all the information it took in that day needs to be cleared out. We get about 60,000 message units a day. And I don't know anybody who gets enough sleep or enough quality sleep that they get through all those message units every night. But I think when it's ADHD, to be honest, I bet you it's at least twice as many message units. And I don't think we ever give our brain any time to actually do that processing. I don't think it does it normally. So you have to actually activate it, but that doesn't mean it has to be hard, right? So what you've experienced is just simply sitting down and putting on a recording. And what was so freeing for me, when I was 10, was that that tape told me I couldn't do it wrong. It didn't matter if I was paying attention. It didn't matter if I could remember what was happening. It didn't matter if I tell the same to my clients. If you start doing this hypnosis session and all of a sudden your brain is spinning on your to-do list and whatever, fine, go with it. That's probably what your subconscious needs to process. There's probably something, I don't care if you're doing something on forgiveness, there's probably something on your to-do list that requires forgiveness, right? There's something related. And that I think was the real key for me, is that your subconscious mind knows what to do generally. Its job is to protect you. If you give it the space to do those things, there's nothing for you to figure out. There's nothing you have to actually go try to do. If you're experiencing a coping mechanism, your subconscious mind knows exactly why it's coping, right? It knows exactly why it's self-sabotaging. We have a therapy model, and I love therapy, and I think therapy is really good for everybody, but we have a therapy model that tells you, you need to figure out what it is that's wrong, and then you need to figure out how to fix it, and then you need to have the skills to go fix it. And for a lot of people, there's at least one of those parts that's missing. And when you do this work subconsciously, what you get to realize is that the subconscious knows exactly why. And so if you simply give it the tools to do the fixing, it will know what to fix.
Yeah. It's amazing. It is interesting having gone through the tape, for the last few weeks that you gave me. I still call it a tape. Then you can see it's like
Me too.
the Gen XE. And yeah, when I first started, it would be like, yeah, I'm really, really in with where you're taking me. And then the more I did, the more I would drift and then think, oh, I should bring myself back. But it's really interesting to hear you say, no, you don't necessarily have to bring yourself back. Let your brain go where it needs to go and do what it needs to do. And then it'll come back when it's ready. I love it. It
And
sounds,
it keeps processing actually even without the actual tape. So, if you did it right now, if you're here in my office and we did a session and you never did anything else, when you go to sleep tonight, your brain is going to continue processing that, right? There's an integration period. Over the next couple of days, your brain is going to continue processing that. Now, there are things about actually listening to the whole thing that help your subconscious and your conscious get on the same track. So, for example, in the one I gave you on calming an overactive mind, there are specific tools there. And your conscious mind being aware of those tools can be helpful when you need to use it in a conscious state, right? If you're having a meeting or something and you're starting to spin and you want to use it, great. It's really good to be consciously aware of those tools. But that's not fundamentally required, right? Everything over simply just allowing the tape to play is kind of a bonus.
I want to just shift gears a little bit here. And, we met through you joining up one of my programs, which is called, it was called Weekly OS at the time. It's evolved into now it's called Focus Formula. And it was just amazing to watch you go through it and see some of the changes that you were able to kind of create for yourself. And you said something that I was really fascinated by because you've taught like productivity stuff. You've been a Covey instructor, right?
Yeah, was a productivity consultant for Franklin Covey. It's how I got my start. Absolutely obsessed with how on earth do you get what it is that you want.
Yeah. And so I was just curious, and you're a member of the ADHD Entrepreneur Accelerator. What was it like when you went through this? Because you've been through lots of different variations of it. So what made, your experience with the program and like what made it so impactful for you?
Yeah, I am really grateful, for the container that you've created, for a couple of reasons. So first of all, as an entrepreneur with a team and Franklin Covey based, right? I'm a paper-based planner. Like I have my planner, it's right here. That does not help me get things done when I have 5 people who need to do things, right? So we were using ClickUp, and if I don't hire somebody who can just literally manage the ClickUp for me, nothing's gonna happen. So I'm always kind of searching. I'm in the space, right? So I'm kind of obsessed with productivity. So I'm in the space and I found X tiles and just was like, "Oh my god, this works how my brain works," right? And then, yeah, I'm kind of a junkie, so I saw there was a webinar on how to create, a weekly dashboard, and I'm like, "Cool, someone's done it. Let me just get your template," right? Because I know that if it's up to me, I'm just never gonna do it, right? I'll start with good intentions, I'll never do it. And so I took the weekly OS program and mostly, I think I did that to get the template so that it was already gonna be done, but I also really love seeing how other people teach productivity, and so, I definitely went through the course, and for me, the thing was the co-working, right? So I remember when we had our first coaching call, and I remember very clearly, and I was like, "I do not need another hot seat. I have so many damn ideas. All I need is space to actually implement the things that I already know I want to do, right? So we actually ended up moving our entire team over to X-Tiles, and it's been fantastic. And absolutely, I've completely fallen off of it, but it doesn't matter because my team is running it. And so when I'm not using that dashboard, I've gone back to my paper planner, but that allowed me to. because now I have the right team who's managing X-Tiles, and I have an assistant who's actually pulling my stuff out of X-Tiles and reminding me on a daily basis what to do so that I can just use my paper planner again, which has been fantastic. But still, the gold for me is the co-working spot, right? Because for me and for anybody who works in this arena, you need a combination of things, right? So you have to have some tools, and that ranges anything from your timers, to your planners, to all the external things we set up to make it actually work, to the hypnosis that changes the thought processes to make some things easier. And for me, someone else running a container where I can just show up and do the work is magic, right? It is just as important to me as the timer. It's probably actually more important to me as the timer. And it's funny. It's funny because it's shifted a lot. And at some point, and I have shifted a lot, and my company has grown, probably doubled since I joined that, primarily because I got some stuff done. But then I made myself too busy, right? And so I haven't even been able to go to co-working. And now there's extra co-working. I feel out of the loop, and so my whole ADHD thing is doing all the things, and it is what it is. But I know enough, right? As an expert in this, I also know enough that the number one thing that I can do to support my brain is create an environment that allows it to be supported. So I've been in a situation for the last couple months where I'm, to go back to that very first thing, I'm on a new level of the parking garage, and the challenges are the same. I have to rise to meet them again. I got a little, I'm not going to say too successful, but I got successful enough that I had to, it broke everything, right? So I have to actually go back to the same process I did when I joined the co-working and the accelerator. And I'm in that transition right now as we speak. So I've got about another 2 weeks, and then I have my entire calendar back. I'm completely transitioning my business model. And the first thing I'm doing is rejoining co-working, because that is an environmental structure that creates success. And that's basically what I do for your brain in hypnosis, right? I create the story that creates success. And I think that's what you do. And because I now have a tool, I have in the weekly OS and the dashboard and everything, I have a tool that my team can use that still works the way my brain works. So when I need to use it, when I'm doing this, when I'm actually producing a program, I can go in there and my team has set it up, but it's set up right for me now to look at it. And now I also have the space to go and implement from that. That's the gold right there.
Yeah. I remember you said that it was one of the earliest co-working sessions. You're like, I just got like all these things done, all my social media posts written, all these things done, and now I can just give them to my team. Because it's like one of the experiences we have with as an ADHD entrepreneur is like we get good, we get busy, and then we bring in people to help. And it's really hard for us with the executive function levels that we have to actually like put the people that we brought in to help us to actually put them in position to help us. And
Yeah.
so that was I think part of that acceleration of your business was like you finally being able to unleash your team so that you could get unleashed in a new
I
level.
mean, no joke. If I could spend literally 2 hours a week, my team would run everything else. What you're talking about is, I have a setup with my social media manager where she gets all the posts into X-Tiles, and all I have to do is sit down and approve them. Do you know how often that's a week late? Because she's like, I need you to approve the January socials. I still need you to approve the January socials, right? So that the co-working, it's not that I don't know how to approve the socials. It's not that they're not in the right system. It's that there's no specific time in my calendar to do that. And that I know that my brain doesn't take an appointment with myself seriously, but it will take an appointment with you seriously. So now it also knows I can absolutely schedule over that. So that's where I've really, I don't want to say I screwed up. These are the problems we ask for. Like, my business really grew. And so, I think probably properly I prioritized client calls, but I also know, like 100% I know every single day that not making it to co-working is holding me back. Every time I have schedule over it. It's on my calendar, and every time I schedule over it, I'm like, this is the only place to put it, and it hurts my soul because this is going to hold me back. this is going to mean I don't get the thing done that would let my team go do all the rest of the stuff, right?
I think also, business is it's so dynamic, and we unlock different levels. And then, like you said, we have to adjust, right? And sometimes we can get really hard on ourselves for dropping us or not working it as well. But over time, as I've gotten older, it's been like, okay, as long as I know it's there and I'm going to come back, and I understand that this is a peak time, and I'm serious about coming back. And to be fair, I started the whole thing so that I would show up, and that's why I started inviting other people in. But that's just the nature of things, and so, like. And one of the biggest skills being an ADHD entrepreneur or being an ADHD anything is not just being able to focus, but able to bring yourself back when you've drifted, because you're going to drift.
I was gonna say, actually, I think that's the gold right there, is it doesn't matter how many times you have to move away, it's the coming back. And it's funny that you said that, because what immediately occurred to me was like, I easily, because I'm that kind of person, could have been like, I'm just gonna start my own co-working, because I want a body double, right? I'm just gonna start my own body doubling. But then the minute I got busy, I would have been like, I'm canceling this, right? And there would have been nothing for me to come back to. And so I think that actually is really important, is that it's actually even provided a little bit of, probably a little bit of dopamine, and motivation for me to get my calendar back under control. Like, it almost functioned as the signal that I was out of control, because I had committed to something and I'd made it a priority. And as I watched myself schedule over it, because if your whole calendar's open, right, and that's not in there, then there's nothing for an ADHD brain. There's nothing to signal that you've kind of gone too far. So it made it really crystal clear for me that if I can't even block out 2 hours a day to work on my business, something is out of alignment. And it gave me a goal to shoot for, to get back to it, right? And which is what I'm doing right now. And it took me, I'd say I've been fully underwater for about 3 months now. So it took me about 3 months, and very, very intentionally, like, I am only gonna do this for 3 months. This has to get solved. I am unwilling to be in this sort of a situation for longer than that, because I will drown. I will get to a point where I cannot come back. But yeah, it gave me something to come back to. It gave me a marker in my calendar of that you've gone too far. It gave me, like, it's still there. Get your butt back to it. Work towards this. And yeah, I've got 2 weeks of travel, and then I have an absolutely clear calendar, and that is like my priority this week, is that's going to be what I do. Get back to it. Get back to it. 2 hours a day. I mean, literally, you can run an entire business on 2 hours a day. It's all you need.
Yeah, once you get it to that place, right? And if you're working on the right things and everything. But yeah, that's all amazing. It's been so amazing speaking with you today, and I'm so glad we did this. Where should people go if they want to learn more about you and what you do and how you help people?
Yeah, so you can find me at remixcoach.com. And if you prefer a particular type of social media, or anything else, every single one of my links is at remixcoach.com/links. So all my programs, all my, podcasts will go there, and all of my socials are there at the bottom. So you can connect with me anywhere you want.
And we'll put the links to those things in the show notes. And of course, we announced that you're going to be doing a workshop for the ADHD Entrepreneur Accelerator that anybody can attend. That's happening on February 25th at 10 a.m. Pacific time. There'll be info about that in the show notes as well. So if you want to get a real taste of this, you're listening, wherever you are, and you're like, man, that sounds awesome. Like, I would like that.
They're actually probably thinking, that sounds impossible. You're telling me I can, like, my brain can be chill and I can feel all regulated?
Yeah, they might be thinking that, and it's but what if? What
What if?
if? And this is the place to go on February 25th, 10 a.m. Pacific time. The link to register will be in the show notes. But I highly recommend you jump in on this, because I think it really is life changing. I think if we can make peace or just break bread with our brain in a new way, then how we experience everything changes.
Yep.
Okay, that's going to do it for this episode of ADHD Entrepreneur Accelerator. Once again, Andi, thank you so much for being with us. It was wonderful to have you.
Thank you so much for having me. I really enjoyed this conversation.
Likewise. We'll see you next time here on ADHD Entrepreneur Accelerator. See you soon.